Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This episode will be a tough one, at least for me. You folks can sit back, relax, enjoy the show, don't worry about a thing. Now, I'll be changing the differential fluid of the XK8, and I intend to do that by accessing the differential from underneath the car, rather than drilling a hole through the trunk. The drilling a hole through the trunk approach is plan B. If plan A doesn't work, I will probably have to switch to plan B. But for now, the intention is to do all the work underneath the vehicle. Now, I'm starting to record at this point, but I've already been struggling for about 40 minutes to make any sort of progress underneath. And it's been tough. Now, the two things that I've accomplished so far are the following. First, of course, I wanted to clean the area, clean the plug and everything around it. Basically, the entire area where I expect my hands to be moving, hoses to be moving, tools to be moving, the plug to be moving in and out. I basically don't want any of that to get contaminated or dirty because that contamination could then make its way inside the diff. So I already went ahead, brake parts cleaner, and cleaned as much as I could around there. The second thing I did, and that I think is the game changer if you want to take this approach. Without doing this, I don't think it would be possible. And that is, I took off the sway bar. Now, my initial intention was to get this job done without removing the sway bar, but it was nearly impossible. So I decided, look, I'm gonna take off the sway bar, give myself a little bit more room to slide my hands in, slide the tools in, get the hoses in, and perform the process. Now, I didn't film the removal of the sway bar, but I will film the reinstallation. So no content will be missing, right? You can just watch the reinstallation and you'll get an idea of how to remove it. It's actually very straightforward, very simple. So those are the two prep steps that I've completed so far, cleaning and removing the sway bar. The third step, which I'm about to undertake now, is actually very simple. I'll take the car down and I'll take it out for a drive because I want the fluid inside the differential to be a little bit warm or more warm so that it's a little bit more flowy and it's easier to extract out. So I'll take the car for a drive, maybe a 10-minute drive, bring it back, lift it again, and at that point, I would try to withdraw the fluid as fast as possible. While it is still warm, it is easier to pull it out. I drove for about 10 minutes to warm up the fluid. And now I'm back in the garage, car is up in the air. I'm using a laser to make sure I'm perfectly level. And now I can proceed with withdrawing the warmed up fluid out of the differential. I made a detailed video on 5 different options when it comes to accessing the drain plug and performing the service. I'll be using one of the methods which I described there. I believe I described it in detail at around 16 minutes mark into the video. If you'd like to, you can check that out. But in essence, I'm going to be attaching a 3-inch extension to the plug, and after that I'll be connecting to the extension with the tool to remove the plug. Let me set that up and we'll be right back. The extension is now connected. This is the back of it. And I'm ready to attach the tool and start twisting the plug out. Alright, the tool is connected. Now I can proceed with loosening. There we go. Click, click, click. And the plug should be on its way out. Let's try to... There it is. Yeah. Twisting it out right now. Now at this point I can keep rotating the plug just with bare hands. I don't need the tool anymore. I have access to the extension here, and you can see how the plug turns very easily. So I will proceed to remove the plug very carefully. Here it is. I have the plug out. The liquid actually, well, it's a bit muddy. We'll know more when we pull it out. Not overly dark though, which is, I guess, a good thing. All right, let's proceed with the extraction. The hose in. There it is. It enters from the top here. All right, the hose comes out and through this kind of funnel, which is just a bottle top really, enters my shop vac. The idea is that all the oil will get sucked out into this bigger container in here, and hopefully I will be then able to extract it out of the shop vac without making too much of a mess. All right, the moment of truth. I'll give this a try. I'm about to start the shop vac. Let's see if any oil comes out.
Oh boy.
All right, this was very fast. It seems like it's working well. I'm going to stop the video so that I could use both hands to manipulate the hose and push it as far down as I could and get all the oil out of the differential. I think the extraction process is now complete. I have the vast majority of the fluid out, and during the process I decided to step down the original hose to a thinner hose so that I can better direct it inside the diff and extract more fluid. I will pour this into other containers and measure exactly how much I've taken out so far, but this looks like a good amount of old fluid out. All right, at this point in time, the hardest part should be behind us, and theoretically going forward is just downhill. Now, it's time to refill the differential. I tried to obtain synthetic gear oil. I ordered twice, and both times I would get the wrong product delivered. So I gave up on that idea. There's probably some kind of problem in the warehouse, I'm not sure. But as plan B, I got the Liqui Moly 8590. Now this, the problem, well, it's not a problem, but it's not synthetic, right? Ideally I wanted synthetic, this is not synthetic, but that's okay. It is very close to the factory spec. The factory spec was a pure 90, this was 8590, that's okay. It's a GO5 and it has explicitly the factory specification. It meets the factory specification that's required. So this all works. This is what I'll be putting in. The method. I have this pump, but I'm afraid that this would just take too long. Pumping like this. So the other plan is to use a big syringe like this. And let me set that up in terms of hoses and everything, and then I'll show you what I have in mind. Now, I cannot be at both spots at the same time, meaning I cannot control the hose at the filler hole and at the same time pump the oil. So what I have is, I have the hose in place. There it is, entering at an angle. And the hose is secured with a zip tie so that it stays in place and it doesn't move. And then it travels to the side of the vehicle. All right, out here to the side, I'm using these blocks to hold the syringe straight, there is a hole here. So when I'm pressing down, I don't have to hold with both hands. I can just apply pressure. The chair is going to hold the syringe in place. And I have markings, so I'll be able to tell how much I'm putting in. And basically the idea is pour the oil inside, press down, and do 1.8 liters. At least that's what the manual says, until we fill the differential. Let's go. Theoretically, I could even leave gravity to do the job. I don't have to press down. You may be able to notice there how the oil is traveling by itself. There it is. Slowly it's making its way in. And because the container is elevated higher than the differential, just through pure gravity, this would eventually make its way all inside. But to speed up the process, I will be pressing down. I'm literally leaning with my entire body on the syringe to apply the force and push the liquid down. So according to the measurements on the syringe, I'm at 1 liter 820 milliliters, and the drip just started. There it is. Fluid is slowly overflowing. Perfect. There's another bubble coming in. Yep. So what this also tells me is that I was able to absolutely completely remove the old fluid. Alright, I removed the hose, and now I need to carefully thread the plug back on. I'll try to do that directly with my fingers, with my hand, rather than any tools. This was easy, it didn't take long at all. I have it started. There it is. And I can just continue tightening it here with my fingers. There we go. And eventually I will have to switch back to the 3-inch extension, basically the reverse of the removal process. The plug is now back in place and it is fully tightened right there. This is as far as it would go. And I also went ahead and I cleaned again with brake parts cleaner all around to make sure that any spillage from the oil is taken care of. So this basically concludes the fluid change, but the one thing that remains to be done is to return the sway bar back in place. And it needs to slide above these cross braces. Now I'm doing this with one hand. My left hand at that. But you get the idea. There we go. There we go. And now the bar is placed across the vehicle on top of those cross braces. The next step would be to turn it forward and reattach on both sides to those links. Alright, I attached the sway bar to the links. I've only hand tightened the nuts. The sway bar moves freely. The head of the bolt is on the outside, the nut is on the inside, and the bar itself is also on the inside, as you can see here. Now, I'm not going to tighten these yet. I will put the bushings first, and then I'll tighten everything once these bushings bolts are in place as well. I have a dedicated video for changing the sway bar bushings, and in that video there's a lot more context and a lot more detail. But very briefly, you want to keep the area clean, the sway bar clean, the bracket clean. Don't forget the PTFE silicone grease inside your bushing. When you're installing it, you want the cut to face up. At least that's how the original bushings were installed. And then from the corner here, you can just slide the bushing in and push it in place, like so. That's it. We can repeat the same thing on the other side. And after both bushings are installed, you can then take your bracket, slide it on top. There we go. And put the two bolts through the bracket into the subframe here. To tighten the sway bar links, you can use 13mm wrench for the head of the bolt and 15mm for the nut at the back. The same 13mm wrench can also be used over here for the bracket of the bushings. Those bolts are 13. Now, don't forget to wipe any excess silicone around here, because you don't want to turn this area into a magnet for dirt and debris. So all silicone should be wiped off. And with that, we can conclude the process of changing the differential fluid on our XK8s. Thank you for joining me again, folks. Best of luck in your upcoming projects, and I'll see you again in the next video. Take care.